Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Dustin Fox, Jason Lloyd, Tyvis Powell, plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Happy Friday!
Here we are. Let's go.
Woo, who's missing today? We've got
G. Bush.
No G. Bush. G. Bush sick today, right?
Out sick with a sore throat. Should be back Monday.
You know, I'm not one to talk. I get sick more than I've ever been sick in the last couple of years. But G. Bush's got a weak constitution.
G. Bush is, I've said this before.
He picks up, it's like every virus going, he's got it.
He is the Byron Buxton of UCSS. He's an elite talent, but he misses a lot of time.
That's funny. That's a good comparison.
Oh, man.
Busy show today. 90 minutes here on the YouTube channel, and then we flip over to WKYC Plus and Channel 3 here in Cleveland. If you're outside the market, just download the app, WKYC Plus. You can see it anywhere. You can see it on your smart TV, view it on the big screen. That's from 12:30 to 1. Full show here, though. We're going to talk a little Cavs, a little Browns. We're going to pick the winners for this weekend, right?
That's right.
And talk some Guardians
Yeah.
in the YouTube show.
Yes.
We're talking
Talk
Guardians,
yeah.
Cavs, and Browns in both YouTube
Yes.
and WKYC today.
That's what it's all about. We're the ultimate Cleveland sports
That's right.
show.
Speaking of sports, I got to tell this quick story, and the fact that my wife knows me so well. So I went to bed my wife and I go to bed at like 11 o'clock last night. Mm-hmm. It turned out to be about an hour later. I'm like I wake up, I'm like half asleep. I've been having a terrible dream.
Wow.
Really, really awful dream that I don't even want to get into. But I can't, and I wanted to wake up so I could kind of
Get out of that.
dream.
Right.
And I kept kind of falling asleep and waking up, and the dream I'd go back to the dream. It was
Those are
awful.
the worst. Yeah.
So finally,
We now join that awful dream already in progress. You're like, no, I thought we were done with that.
It was horrible. And finally, the third time, I'm so tired, I can't get myself up. I tap my wife, like, sweetie, help me wake up. Help me wake up. She goes, okay, who plays first base for the Cardinals?
That's amazing.
I mean, is that the best?
You talk about a spouse knowing their spouse.
Wow.
And that woke me up.
You had to engage.
I had to think about it.
And then you got it, and then the dream over, right?
It was unbelievable.
That
the first
is
baseman for the
a
Cardinals now?
great sequence.
You know what? The funny part is, I couldn't even think of who was the first baseman for the
It
Cardinals.
was
Wow.
Goldschmidt.
It
but
was
he's
Not
a free
anymore.
agent.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Is it Walker? Did Christian Walker go there? Where'd Walker go?
No. He went to the Yankees. Right?
Did he?
Yeah, I think so.
All the hot stove moves,
Yeah, I
I
can't
need to
remember
be
now.
reminded as I
yeah.
start doing my spring training research.
I don't
No,
think
Christian Walker went to the Astros.
I'm sorry. You're right. Who did the Yankees bring to first base? Oh, they brought Goldschmidt. That's
Yeah,
right.
They got Goldschmidt.
So I don't even know if the Cardinals have a set first baseman yet. You may be thinking of Jordan Walker.
You know, your wife knew that and figured that it would really
That's
engage
right.
your brain cells and it
Exactly.
would knock you out of the dream.
Yeah.
That's
If
pretty
I
funny.
woke my wife up to tell
Yeah.
her to wake me up, there would be blood on the pillow.
Yeah, I'd get a hard right cross too, man. I guarantee it.
My wife
Hey, I
could-
know you're sleeping comfortably,
Yeah.
but I'm having an awful dream here.
The
Can you
great
engage
thing-
and wake my ass up?
The great thing is my wife can fall right back asleep. So she did that.
what a
I
gift.
got up, and then she passed right back out. I was up for like 2 hours because my
Wow.
brain
Yeah,
was
you
going.
texted me like midnight.
Yeah, right. I'm like, oh, Jason had texted me. Let me respond to that.
That's a gift to be able to fall right back.
Oh, God,
asleep.
yes. I wish.
That is awesome. All right, Mike, we're ready to go, man.
That's crazy, Bull.
Yeah.
That is a good story.
And I think she
played
did know the
first
Cardinals.
base for the Cardinals.
That's crazy. And the fact that
Yeah.
it's probably the one team in baseball that doesn't have a solidified first
Well, what's
baseman
awesome
right
is
now.
she knows that the Cardinals are the Cubs' mortal enemy,
Oh, yeah, she knows.
and so
She's
she
on top
went-
of it.
That's just fantastic.
Before we jump in, Bull, had she asked you a similar question, not the Cardinal, was there a question she could have asked that you would have just answered instinctively and not actually woken up?
Yeah, probably. But she knew the right thing to ask.
She clearly knows
We
you.
sometimes play. I sometimes play this game where I'm like, it's black, white, Asian, or Latino.
Yeah.
Where I name a baseball player, and she's got to tell me if that baseball player is black, white, Latino, or Asian. So she knows my insanity when it comes to
She knows you well, boy.
baseball rosters. Yeah.
That's the key to a successful marriage.
That's right.
That it is. All right, guys, let's dive into our first topic today, which is sponsored by Game Time. Game Time is the best and easiest way to buy your tickets online to any sporting event, concert, any live show. Game Time has tickets online at the best prices for you with their new Game Time Picks feature. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Ant has the Game Time app up right now for this Saturday night's Rockets-Cavaliers rematch. Ant, what's the get-in price on Game Time?
In section 229, you can get tickets for $58 a piece, so down $2 from yesterday.
Not bad for a rematch of two of the three best teams in basketball at the moment. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Once again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time.
Sometimes there's more excitement from Bull. He's still sleepy from his nightmare.
No, that was I was trying. You're
just going for a different angle.
If the camera was on me, you would have liked
He was
it
going
better.
finger guns.
I did
for
one
some
of these.
reason, even though
Game
Okay.
time. It was like the serious.
Hey, by the way, speaking of the Cavs
Yeah.
and the Rockets, I thought last night was going to be the night that the Cavs fell out of sole possession of the best record in the NBA. They've had that for the entire season.
Yeah.
But the Thunder were upset by the Mavs, and
Okay, there you go.
the Cavs stay
That's right.
ahead of the Thunder for now.
For now, yeah.
For now.
For now. Speaking of those
Celtics
Cavs,
with another bad loss, too.
Oh,
yeah.
What is going on?
they got the brakes beat off him.
They really did. They really did.
Speaking of the Cavs, though, that is where we are going to start today. As Donovan Mitchell and Kenny Atkinson have officially punched their tickets to the Bay for the All-Star game. Kenny Atkinson with the Cavaliers securing the best record in the Eastern Conference in the first half of the season. They will be the coaching staff for two of the four teams in the whole new All-Star format, which is wonky and whatever. But Donovan Mitchell was named an All-Star starter alongside Jalen Brunson, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jason Tatum, and Karl Anthony Towns. I do want to point out that Darius Garland finished in the top 5 in both the media vote and the player vote. Evan Mobley also in the top 5 in both media and player votes. So my question to you guys will start with this. The Cavs got one starter. Did they get the right one starter?
I think they got the right starter. I mean, if there was only going to be one, it had to be Donovan
Interesting
Mitchell.
question, yeah.
He's having the best season. He's their best player still. So I think they got that right. Do you guys agree?
You know, it's funny because when Mike asked the question, I was initially thinking that he was asking the question between Darius and Donovan, but he didn't say that. It was because I think you can make the case that Evan Mobley.
You could.
Like, if you asked who's the MVP of the Cavs, I think you can make an argument for Mobley. I don't
would
know if that's
still say-
correct, but I think you could make that
I
argument.
think the argument is who's the second best player right now on the Cavs? Is it Garland or is it Mobley? I think that's the question.
I think it's Mobley.
Me
I
too.
think Mobley will soon be the best player on this team.
I think that's where they're
That's
trending.
That's the way it's.
Yeah, if he continues to grow and make steps like he has.
When you're having, but see, here's the thing: it's an all-star thing, so it's not just who's the best player.
Right.
It's who the fans want to see.
Right.
Yeah,
that's
and
right.
it's also at that position.
And right now, the fans still want to see Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell's the biggest name of all of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
And so Donovan, eventually maybe Darius becomes more of a household name. Maybe Evan becomes more of a household name. But right now, the star on this team is Donovan Mitchell. So if you're going to get one all-star starter, it's going to be Donovan Mitchell. Now, you can make an argument, is somebody else more worthy? But when it's a game for the fans and the
Right.
fans are involved in the voting, this is what you get.
Yeah, and I have no problem
Yeah.
with it. I guess another question, Mike, is are Garland and Mobley going to be added to the team?
And that is the next question.
Mike, I think it's a no-brainer. I think the biggest thing that that, in my opinion, helps get Garland into the All-Star game is the fact that I always forget what ball. It's LaMelo Ball,
LaMelo,
right?
correct.
Yep.
That LaMelo Ball, because LaMelo Ball had been leading the fan voting, I thought, at guard or
He
second.
won the fan vote.
Yes, he was.
Oh, he
still-
did, but he didn't get in as a starter.
No, because he was
The fan-
7th
the media-
and 9th in the fan and the media vote.
Which,
Right.
which, by the way, is a huge disconnect between who the fans think is the best player.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that on the show. The
Yeah.
fans love his game, but it's not transferable to what the media and what the players would say.
Right,
is,
fans like the highlight film that he is.
Right.
And obviously he's very talented, but he's not a winning player. And now my guess is because of how that went down, I don't even think he's going to make the All-Star team, which opens up a guard spot for Darius.
Not only that, but also every year there's guys who pull out. There's guys are going to get hurt between now and then. Guys are going to want to go to Cancun between now and then.
Right.
The fact that it's San Francisco, cold weather cities, guys are typically bailing all the time.
But San Francisco is not a warm weather city.
It's not warm. It's not the beach.
no, but it's not Vegas. It's not Miami.
Right.
Yeah.
But
It's not Phoenix.
It's not
It's not
Indianapolis.
Milwaukee.
It's
Right.
not Indianapolis.
It's in the middle.
Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So
When you have Milwaukee, basically by the time the game starts, you're down to the third team
Yeah,
All-Stars.
that's right.
I still believe the Cavs will wind up with 4. I do.
Yeah?
Really?
Yeah. Now they've dropped a couple games here because my thought was if you get to 50 wins at the break, you're going to get 4, and they've dropped a couple that I didn't see coming
Right.
with the way that they were rolling. So it may only be 3. They're definitely going to get 3. Whether it's guys added initially as bench guys, whether it's guys added, maybe Jarrett gets added as guys pull out, that sort of thing. But I
Well-
think they'll for sure get 3.
It's possible that Jared gets in because Evan Mobley can't play.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, you're right.
yeah. And obviously they can't rush him back.
No, calves are no joke. Like people hear calf and kind of dismiss it. Calves, you got to be really careful with calves because it'll linger all year long. If you come back too soon, it could wreck your entire year. It can lead to Achilles if you mess around with it. Calf strains are no joke, so they need to be very, very cautious.
He's
with this.
out tonight, by the way.
Yeah.
Officially already ruled out.
And just like any other muscle injury, if you come back too soon and you tweak it again, then it's worse. It's easier to tweak it once you've already hurt it.
Calf strains are usually measured in weeks, not days.
Yeah, I wouldn't. When is the
that's
All-Star
what-
game? It's like a month, right?
It's mid-February.
Oh,
That's
so
what,
even less.
that's what knocked Donovan out at the end of last year.
Right.
I remember talking to him about it, and he was trying to come back. I'm like, you can't come back. This is a weeks-long thing. It's the whole Kevin Durant when he blew out his Achilles was trying to come back from a calf.
Right.
So you can't mess with these things.
It's tough. Mike, do you agree? You think they'll get 4? I'm hopeful they'll get 4. I just don't know.
I think 3's a certainty. And I look at it, and I have the numbers up in front of me, the official full voting. The way the players and the media voted for both Evan and Darius, to me, those guys are essentially locks.
Right.
Yeah.
Jarrett, I think, is an injury replacement guy, or if someone doesn't want to go, he could slide in. I don't think they're getting 4 off the initial 12-person roster.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree
However,
with that.
can we mention 12-person roster real quick? Why do NBA teams have 15-player rosters, but the All-Star games
Yeah,
are
it's
12?
Yeah, I've always wondered
It's so
that.
stupid.
It's- I think because if you have 15, you feel obligated to play for 15.
That's true.
And then
Good point.
And then the players that the fans really want to see for a bulk of the game don't get as much time.
But a lot of those guys don't want to play.
But they're
heavy.
now.
No,
doing
I know they
this-
don't. I know they
they're
don't.
now doing this 3 teams of 8.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask Mike.
I have no
don't
idea.
know.
Yeah.
And
I have
don't
no
either.
idea what they're doing
So,
this
Mike,
year.
my question to you is, I don't understand the new format. To me, if you're going to be playing multiple games, and that's what it's going to be, right?
Yeah.
Then you need more players.
So they have 3 teams of 8.
Yeah, they could have
divided
easily
by
done
by
3
the
of
2
10.
All-Star teams.
Yeah.
And then they have the winner of the sophomore rookie Rising Stars Challenge is the 4th team in there.
Lord.
Yeah,
And they're quick game. Their games to 40. So they're hoping that the quicker
They're
game.
grabbing at straws here.
Yeah,
but I don't-
it's a disaster. It could
The
end
whole
up being
weekend is a
cool,
debacle.
but I don't,
it is.
I don't like
it
it.
went from one of my favorite sports weekends
totally agree.
Yeah.
to one that I couldn't care
Yeah,
less about.
I totally agree. Slam dunk sucks.
Awful.
The game sucks.
Do you guys know the 3 guys who have already committed to the slam dunk contest?
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I haven't
dude,
heard.
guy from
Jason, don't say. Hold on.
Sorry.
I'm gonna ask Bull and Jay. I'm gonna give you the 3 names. You tell me if you've ever heard of these guys.
Okay.
Or if
That's-
they're made up. So I'll give you 5
Well,
names.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to give us 5?
I'll give you 5. You,
That's
you-
2 of them are made
awful.
up.
That's
pick- yeah.
awful.
okay, Andre Jackson Jr.
That's a real name.
He is real. He played. Do you know what team
No,
he
you
plays
didn't give
for?
me a chance. I might have said fake, but go ahead, Mike.
Do you know what team he plays
His
for?
boys
No
call him
idea.
Dre.
No idea.
He's
He
in
plays for the
he's in-
Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a bench guy in the Bucks.
Yeah.
Stephon Castle.
That's fake.
He's real.
Really?
He is real. He was a top 5 pick in this year's NBA lottery.
I couldn't tell you what team he's on, but I know the name sounded familiar.
He's on the San Antonio Spurs.
Okay.
Julius. That's
Fake.
made up.
That's
I was trying to make it up on the fly. I'll just give you the third one. The third one is
Caesar.
Matis Buzzelli.
Who's
Never
going to
heard.
watch that? Like, you know what I would rather see? I would rather see the dunk specialist, non-NBA players.
The trampoline guys.
No.
Like the professional dunker.
The professional dunkers.
okay.
Those guys, I can't take my eyes off of.
I would rather see Dirk Nowitzki wrestle an alligator than watch that. I mean,
I would watch that too.
Listen, we make such a big deal in all these sports about guys making the All-Star. The only thing I even watch anymore is the baseball All-Star game.
I do too.
Even the home run derby has become tiresome.
Yeah, it
it's
is.
too long.
Yeah.
And they make these things long because they want to get all their commercials in. I get it, but it's so boring.
I agree. I agree 100%.
I mean,
And
when we were
used to-
kids, and obviously, the NBA All-Star game was amazing.
It was
unbelievable.
Because those guys played defense, they wanted to win.
When Michael Jordan was the game's best player. And one of the mind-blowing things about the dunk contest, and you can point directly to LeBron James.
Yeah.
When the best players decided that they had more to lose than to win by
Right.
doing it, it became absolute
Garbage.
garbage, trash.
Yeah.
And I kind of blame LeBron for that. Like, LeBron never competing in a slam dunk contest is
Criminal.
egregious.
You should be brought up on charges.
It's a mark.
misdemeanor.
It's one of the
Yes.
few marks on
Yes.
his resume.
And with the three-point contest, like, again, when it first started, the three-point contest, it was exciting because you didn't shoot a lot of threes in those days.
Yeah,
Now
true.
the whole game is threes. So what's the
Yeah,
point of the three-point?
you're right.
They should have like
You're
a
right.
half-court shooting contest now. That would be more
Yeah.
interesting.
I want to mention one more thing on the All-Star, then we can move on. But Kenny Atkinson is one of the 4 head coaches. His staff, because of their number 1 record, and you can't do it 2 years in a row, so if they have the best record next year, they won't be eligible to do it again. His staff is also going out to Golden State, and one of his assistants will get a chance to coach one of the other 4 teams.
Presumably, that'll be Johnny Bryant.
I would assume it's Johnny Bryant, too, who has not been a head coach yet. But from a coaching growth standpoint, I guess, and Jason, I'll start with you on this. I know it's a meaningless all-star game, and you're not going to get these guys to play hard, but just the experience the rest of his staff can gain from being around some of these elite talents and having this opportunity, I think it's pretty cool and a really good chance for them to grow as a staff and pick up a few things.
Yeah, it's a good experience to be around those guys. I don't know how much career growth comes out of it. I don't know if Johnny Bryant ever coached a summer league team. I don't know. I think that's a good experience for the guys who are really probably 2 or 3 steps away.
Right.
And that's their first exposure to running things and dealing with media and dealing with timeouts and drawing up plays and that sort of thing. But it's just a good experience for Johnny and the Cavs staff to just be around stars of that level
Right.
and get inside their heads for a weekend and see how they think and how they operate. It's certainly not a bad thing.
Do you want to throw out ideas that could make this weekend better?
Sure, and then
'Cause
we'll
I have
talk
a couple.
about LeBron.
So one way to make it better is each team in the All-Star game has to play at all times someone that they select from the stands.
Oh, that would be cool.
That'd be
Love that.
awesome.
Yeah.
So
That'd be
now
awesome.
there's no tryouts. The captain of the team gets to walk through and take a look and say, "I want you." And so he is and maybe each team picks 3, but the rule is you have to have a fan in the game at all times.
And they have to take a shot every 2.5 minutes. Because
Yeah, you can't
just
lock
play-
them out.
You
Yeah.
can't just play 4-on-4.
Right, you're right. Yeah,
They got to
And-
take a shot every
and,
2 minutes.
What if the fan passes out?
It'd be great.
Then
it'd
bring
be
in another
great-
fan.
Yeah, but it'd be great video. You'd have to sign a waiver.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't blink. In
No,
fact, if
that'd
you,
be awesome.
I would change my weekend plans
Yeah.
to make sure I was home to watch this.
That would be worth watching.
That
yes.
was like my golden at bat rule. You know,
Yes.
with baseball.
Absolutely.
Well, you know what? You'd be golden at bat when the lineup comes back on. You get to pick one person from the stands to come in and be the
And
player.
that could be epic. I mean, because some guys pass the look test but have never dribbled a basketball.
That's true.
Right.
Other guys look like schleps in street clothes, but they might be able to ball. They can handle. They can shoot. Or whatever. So I would love that. I would watch the dunk competition, which is really just dead to me. I already gave my idea. I would say the NBA players don't want to do it. Clearly, we're taking guys that we don't even know are real players. Let's just open it up to the top 5 that everybody kind of thinks are the best dunkers in the world. And we know who they are. They're on YouTube. We've seen them. I'll watch that because those dunks are
Yeah.
entertaining. And, you see a 5'8" guy do a 360 reverse or whatever. I'd watch that.
Yeah.
So that's how I would make the All-Star game
And
watchable.
if whoever wins gets a guaranteed NBA contract. How about that?
Oh, what wins the dunk contest?
Yeah.
Oh, now that would be
If
it.
you're doing these dunkers.
Yeah. A
right?
10-day contract with whom? Where are you getting?
Whatever team they want.
Wow. So if he says, I want to go to the Cavs.
Yeah, they can go to the Cavs, yeah.
Wow.
That's never happened.
At whose expense?
None of this stuff is happening. But
No,
all
it's
of it is more interesting than what they're actually
I know.
doing.
Yeah, because now there's something really, really, really on the line and at stake. And if you told these guys who all would love to play in the NBA, of
course.
if you told these guys that the winner of the dunk contest would get a 10-day contract with the team, hell yeah, they would pull out all their best stuff.
How about we do this just to make it more interesting? The 3-point shootout, the 3-point contest. It's not Steph. It's not DG. It's the 10 worst 3-point shooters in the NBA. Guys that don't shoot.
Yeah, but that's just going to be one clang after another. What about this?
But then the dunk contest.
You have to shoot opposite-handed.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't hate that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't hate that. You know, I've seen Steph shoot lefty.
Yeah.
Steph would win a shooting contest.
He probably would, but it would be a skill that he has that he really hasn't been able to demonstrate.
What I don't understand.
LeBron has a left hand.
What I don't understand about
He
why
is
these,
left-handed.
these guys.
I'm sorry, right?
Why is it that the guys don't play hard? If they have nothing to lose, they have guaranteed contracts. It's not like it's football.
I think it's because they don't have anything to play for.
Yeah.
They look at it as
It's just not. What about the pride of wanting to?
You're talking about All-Star Weekend or just in general?
No, I think you're talking about the All-Star
I'm talking
game, right?
specifically. That's a bigger story, but topic. But no, but specifically in the All-Star game, why have guys stopped caring about playing defense?
Well, it's a joke. They just all they're interested in is scoring points and putting on a show. It's alley-oops, it's tosses, it's every crazy thing. It's really not a watchable
I
game.
kind of feel like, and maybe this is wrong. I don't know, Jason. You know better than me, and Mike, you're around the players, but I do feel like that Adam Silver has bent over backwards to support players more than any commissioner probably in the history of sports, or at least the sports that I follow.
I don't know. He's trying to crack down on this whole idea of load management and.
Yeah, well, but the teams want that too. It's not just the players.
I know, but it's directly against the players' wishes.
Right.
Like the players
Well,
want to play 60 games a year.
Yeah, well, I just feel like he's been so good to the players, and sometimes they just they don't do him a solid. Like
I said that last year coming
Yeah.
off All-Star Weekend that there's a lot. There's so much that goes into this. Number one, it goes back. I've talked about this before on the show. It goes back to when David Stern and Jerry Colangelo sort of crammed this rule change down everyone's throat, going back to the Allen Iverson days when the score was 92-88 in the NBA Finals, and they changed the way you could guard defensively, and they changed all these rules. They opened up the floor, and they increased scoring. I think that's got, and that it's just exacerbated, and it's a snowball that's continuing to roll downhill.
yeah.
And there is the player empowerment effect that, well, this is what you get. When you give these guys total control of everything, this is what you get. And, there's a much larger conversation here that I was having a conversation a couple weeks ago with someone who works in the league, a front office guy who said, tell me the next American-born MVP.
That's a big conversation.
American basketball is broken.
Yep.
And wait until you see what happens at the Olympics in 4 years when the U.S. gets embarrassed.
Will
by
they?
France and
Spain.
Look who carried them this year. LeBron and KD ain't coming back.
France, you got
France,
Wembanyama.
yeah. And Kenny knows the French better than anybody because he coached them.
Wagner's, Wembanyama.
So, Mike, you and I had this conversation, I think.
I mentioned the.
So how has that
international thing to you
happened?
first.
What I'm
did.
wondering is how that's happened because obviously when basketball.
I was talking to the guy I was talking to said the NBA needs to follow soccer and do what soccer did because AAU coaches are horrendous.
You mean like U17s?
Well, they come in and they certify the coaches because there's no certification. Right? Anybody can coach in AAU now. And the guy I was talking to said, you got coaches that are on their cell phone during games. They're not watching what's going on. And this AAU climate has totally destroyed the NBA, where if the NBA would come in and take over the youth programs like soccer does, and it's you have to be certified to be a coach, and they sort of at the U13 level, U12 level, all the way up, then you can sort of salvage this and bring this back around.
In a way that you're talking about like building on the fundamentals more, because that's what I feel is washed out of the American. Like we have plenty of individual talent. The problem is they look like ball. You know, they look like
Yeah.
he's a fine player to watch, but are you going to win with him?
I think that's why more people are watching women's basketball too, because
it's more fundamentally
sound
Yeah,
game.
Yeah.
It could be.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, nobody's going to argue that men's basketball isn't more talented, but the men's players are more talented. We know that.
They're more athletic
but
and all that,
people want to
yeah.
see, obviously, Caitlin Clark is the biggest reason
Sure.
why.
Yeah.
But some of it, now that they've watched it because of Caitlin Clark, like the other day, I was just watching random college basketball, and I was going from game to game to see, because there was no favorite
that's
team.
really tough to do.
And then I stopped at a women's game, and I was like, this is a little more interesting than the men's game.
Yeah, I've done that too, flipped
Yeah.
around to the college games.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I haven't watched a ton of college. I've probably watched less college basketball this year than any point in my life. But when I do check it out, I don't even recognize what I'm looking at. One of the games I watched, there were like 9 straight possessions where there were bad shot misses. Like they weren't even good shots. No one was working to get a good shot. They were just chucking up threes.
And
it looked like I couldn't watch it. The other thing that as we look at international ball passing what's happening here, I feel like the transition has already happened where it's no longer the thoroughbred athletes. It's the guys with the fundamental building blocks, and
right.
they have a lot of different things
look
to
at
their
Jokic.
game. That's it.
Yeah.
He's the poster child
And
of what's
Luka.
going on.
And
Luka.
Yeah.
And
And there's more of them coming.
I tell you another thing I don't like, and I see it even in Little League to some degree. I don't allow it on my team, but I see some of this. But this is, every time you see a video, if you're on Instagram and scrolling, you see an AAU video, all these videos are about like one kid trying to humiliate another kid by dunking in his face. And people like celebrate that stuff. I don't understand that.
I know. I think
Basketball's
that's
really
I think
a lot
that's part
about
of
that, Mike.
I think that's part of the
bothers me.
culture.
Listen, if I
now.
dunked on somebody, I would celebrate too. I'm not gonna lie. If I dunked on, I would.
But you know
celebrate.
what? That's fine. You're an adult. So some 13-year-old kid who's an amazing athlete dunks, and he's like in the face of another 13-year-old kid. Where are the adults? I don't blame the kids.
Yeah.
Where are the adults here saying this is ridiculous behavior?
That's the thing. You're right.
Speaking of adults, real quick before
Yeah.
we pivot over to the Browns, on the West, we mentioned the East starters. These are the West starters. You're going to see a lot of, or 2 international names and 3 names that beat the internationals in the Olympics. SGA and Jokic will be joined by Curry, Durant, and LeBron James, who made his 21st straight
amazing.
All-Star game.
By the way,
LeBron
is
has
SGA
just
an American, Mike? Sorry.
No.
Canadian.
No.
Canadian.
He's not
okay.
Canadian.
Yeah, all right.
LeBron, if you just take his All-Star resume, is a legal adult and has every privilege that an American would have because it's 21 straight years. I don't want to where that ranks on the list of accomplishments, but
No one's ever
But
been
does he
named to more
deserve it at this
consecutive.
point? Does he deserve to
Incredible.
be an all-star?
I think he does.
All-Star,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Starter, no.
No, okay. But he deserved to still be an all-star, which is
Yes.
just mind-blowing at 40 years old.
It's unreal that
Yeah.
he's done it at that level, both
Yeah.
as a teenager and into his 40s.
Yeah.
We really I don't know that there's an equivalent for that. Tom Brady on the NFL wasn't Tom Brady until he was 24, and then he did it well into his 40s. That was impressive, but
Plus-
to do it as a teenager and as a 40-year-old,
Well, and to just throw in more on that, Tom Brady had zero pressure in the NFL. Zero.
none. No,
Whereas
6th
LeBron
round draft.
James had more pressure than any player maybe ever.
Well, I think
in
the
any
most
sport.
impressive thing about LeBron James is that.
Yeah.
He was on the cover as a high school
Yeah.
junior or whatever it was when
Yeah.
when they anointed him
The
the
chosen
king.
one.
The chosen
On
one.
the cover of SI, the chosen
and
one.
so I think there's more instances of guys that completely fail and fold under that kind of
No
pressure.
doubt.
Because there's not many that have that kind of pressure. Another one is Tiger Woods. When
Yeah.
Tiger Woods was expected to do things that no one thought he could, and he
right.
lived up to it. And
be
there are a lot
interesting
of
to see-
similarities between the two.
It'll be interesting to see how Tiger's son, 'cause Tiger's son's pretty good, right?
Charlie,
He is good.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah,
good.
no,
Is he in college now?
No, I think he's still in high school. He won a
Oh.
state championship last year.
I
in
think
golf.
he's a senior. I could be wrong.
I saw this video recently of Tiger.
Charlie Wood's 15, by the way. so
Okay,
he's got
of Tiger
plenty
being
of time.
interviewed when he was like first on the tour, and I think it was his first tournament or one of his first tournaments, and a veteran golfer was interviewing, or maybe somebody that had just retired, and he was like, he asked Tiger what he expected to do in the tournament. Tiger was like, "Oh, I expect to win."
Yeah.
And the guy was like, "That's pretty arrogant," you know. And Tiger looked at him like, "Of course I expect to win. What do you know?" That's just that attitude.
The established
Yeah.
old guard in golf had a real tough time with Tiger Woods.
Oh, sure.
They didn't like his arrogance. They didn't like that he was stealing the spotlight from him. There were a lot of things they didn't like. You remember at the Masters one year, Fuzzy Zeller made the ridiculous comment.
Yeah, the racist thing about it.
And I think that was the epicenter of what was going on behind the scenes. I was in Columbus working at WBNS covering Muirfield when he first came onto the tour. And I was fascinated to watch the interaction between that crew, the older guys.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons Mark O'Mara became his very, very close friend, if not his best friend on the tour, was because he was a guy who was already established that said, Tiger, give me hugs. You're going to make all of us very rich.
Yeah,
he knew what the others didn't.
That he did.
I got to say this while we're talking about Tiger. I covered the event at Firestone a few years ago, and my assignment, this is when I was working for the Beacon, and my assignment the one day was just follow Tiger.
Yeah.
Just follow Tiger.
I had that assignment at Muirfield.
So
awesome.
I was standing probably 100 yards away from him on one of his iron shots. I don't remember which iron he hit. The ball went directly over my head, and I have to tell you, the sound that ball made, it sounded like a jet.
It was different.
I've never heard on a golf course a ball sound. It sounded like a 747 was going over my head. The roar that ball made coming off his club was such a cool experience. I mean, you guys know, we say all the time, I'm dead inside. I've seen it all and done it all in this business, and nothing impresses me. That impressed me.
Yeah.
The sound of the
It was
roar
different.
of that ball.
Yeah.
Bull, to put it into something that you'll understand, when there are players that you watch take BP.
Oh, yeah.
That the ball just sounds different. Sounds like they're using a different bat, a different ball, everything. Tiger was that way.
I could give you a quick example. Is when I was working in Batavia, and it's A ball, and most of those guys are never playing in the majors.
Right.
And the first time I saw Chase Utley and Ryan Howard take BP, I was like, "Oh, this is different."
You can tell. Yeah, you can
these
tell.
These guys are not the same.
The other one in golf that I had the opportunity. I was watching John Daly, and I was going to follow him for his first 9 during a round for an assignment. And I went to the driving range to watch him get loose. And when I walked up to the driving range, I'm like, "Oh my God, is Jack Nicklaus? What's going on?"
Yeah.
I get up there. There's this huge throng of fans. It's just to watch John Daly.
Yeah.
And when he hit a ball, it sounded different in impact, but you could also hear the trajectory, the whistle of the ball as it went away.
Yeah.
Forget the loud, explosive,
Right.
and that's when they were using driver heads that were this big. But you could hear the takeoff, and it was just something to see. It was incredible.
Crazy. All right, guys, we're going to move on to our next topic. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and later in the show, we're going to talk about some Cavs trade rumors, so stick around for that. Speaking of rumors, Steve, you want to take tag board here full. Earlier this week, the Titans' new general manager was asked what his plans were for the first pick, and Chad Brinker said, quote, "We won't pass on a generational talent with the first pick in the NFL draft," end quote. That could mean anything. Who knows what generational talent means in their mind? There's been some speculation after that quote came out that the only generational talent in terms of a draft prospect in this class is one Travis Hunter. So I'm curious if, in your guys' opinion, does this mean there could be a chance that both Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are on the board when the Browns are on the clock at number 2? Or is this simply GM smokescreen?
Yep.
Of course it's GM smokescreen.
That's exactly what it is.
By the way,
what it tells me? They're drafting Cam Ward.
Or at the very least, I don't know, but let's say you didn't want a quarterback and you wanted Travis Hunter. Well, you wouldn't want to tell the other teams that because you want somebody to trade up to 1.
That's exactly right.
I mean, it's just crazy. You want to convince the Giants to trade up.
When I was early in my draft coverage, I used to say that why would the team at the top lie? They've got no reason to lie. They get whoever they want.
Right.
And then I think it was Rich McKay of the Bucks told me, well, no, they have more reason to lie than anybody.
Right.
Because you want the other 31 to not know what you're going to do.
That's right.
And these teams that state now, if it's Joe Burrow or if it's one of these players that's a generational talent,
right? That's
then
different.
There's no reason holding those cards.
Right.
You can say we know who we're going to take.
Yes,
and that's fine. But even in that case, there might be someone who wants him or needs him more, and you don't know what you might get. So I think, based on what Rich told me years ago, the team that has the most incentive to lie is the team that holds the number 1.
Right, because, first of all, there's no chance they're taking Travis Hunter at 1. Because
No.
even if they've decided we got to get Travis Hunter, we don't like these quarterbacks. Well, they'll be the Giants will trade up. Let's say the Giants, for example, because the Giants right now, they might be thinking, well, we can't get either of the top 2 quarterbacks.
Right.
We got to hop over the Browns. Well, if they really want Travis Hunter, they could trade down from 1 to 3, get something, and still get Travis Hunter most likely.
You have to. I think it's still too early to know how the league really views Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders.
I think we'll know after the combine.
Probably, and after you get through
The interviews.
the East-West game,
Sure.
and in some of this stuff, because if they're not good enough, then you're not going to get anything for the number 1 or number 2
Right.
pick. Like it is possible to not take a quarterback number 1 overall. It has happened before.
It has.
rare,
2 years
though.
ago. It's very rare.
It just happened 2 years ago.
No, it has. It's
So-
happened a couple of times.
Yeah.
But
And that was the wrong call, by the way.
Well, I mean, I don't remember. Jacksonville was back-to-back years.
They took Trayvon Walker
Right.
over Aiden Hutchinson.
They had so
now
still,
it's blasphemy.
But anyway, it's beside
Yeah.
the point. I'm just saying. I remember the Cavs being in that spot where they had a number 1 pick in a terrible draft, and they tried like
Yes.
hell to trade out of that spot.
Nobody
Right.
wanted it.
And nobody wanted it.
That's much less likely to happen in football.
Agree.
Yeah.
Agree. I'm just
Especially with
saying-
quarterback. I mean,
I'm
it's
just
just-
saying, if the teams that, even the Browns at 2, 3,
Yeah.
4, 5, and 6, look at these quarterbacks and say, nope, not worth going up to get them, what are you going to do?
Right.
You're right.
Then you're
And
stuck.
I just think that's unlikely. So even if the Titans don't,
It only takes one.
It only takes one
Yeah.
team.
Right.
That's it.
So you're
That's
probably
it.
right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
It is possible. You're
Yeah.
right. It's possible.
But, the adage is, how can you tell if a GM is lying and if his lips are moving?
Yeah.
Right.
Particularly when it comes to draft talk. These guys are masters at putting out the wrong information.
Yes.
I mean, some just choose to put out no information, but a lot of them actually engage in putting out misinformation.
Oh, yeah.
Breadcrumbs
Oh, yeah.
on a trail that they have
I've been lied to so many times.
Oh, it's insane.
So many times.
And, I've heard general managers say, yeah, just take everything you hear with a grain of salt. And what I do with it is I just dismiss it. And my favorite part is, it's never happened with me because I've never had that kind of relationship with a general manager, but I've talked to the guys at ESPN that are in with everybody. And they all know the way the game is played. But what's funny to me is when the reporter knows they're being played and, they'll pull them aside and they'll say, look, this is off the record, which is my favorite thing.
Yeah.
And then they'll say, there's not a quarterback in this draft that's worth taking or whatever. And the reporter is looking at the general manager knowing that he's going to use him as a mouthpiece to put people off the wrong trail. And so the game is really a funny game right now. But I just say, everything that you hear between now and draft day, dismiss it.
That's right.
No one is going to tell you what they want to do or what they're going to. Look at yesterday, Tommy Rees. He didn't use a name of a player that's in the draft.
No, he said nothing.
No.
He said nothing.
Him and Kevin will get along fine.
Oh, he's going to fit in great here.
The only
He talked for
information-
40 minutes, and when he was done, I'm like, I think I know less than I did when he started.
The only thing we learned is that for sure is that Kevin was going to call plays. That was it.
Right.
Which I think everybody felt was the direction we were leaning
Yes,
anyhow.
but I brought this up yesterday. Not that we need to. I know you guys weren't here, but I just thought it was interesting dynamic compared to last year when it took forever before they announced it.
Well,
and
training
this
camp.
year was right away.
Yeah, I know that we probably did do this yesterday.
Yeah.
I wasn't here. I'm curious to get both of your thoughts on this. I loved the way Kevin Stefanski handled yesterday.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm calling plays, and maybe I'll change my mind, and that's it. And
Yeah.
then as he was leaving, he was asked a question, and he came back and said, no.
Yeah, he said, "Can we ask you something?"
Can we ask you something about?
I got one question. Nope. And
No.
got up and left.
So here's what
he was joking. But
I know
not
he
really.
was, but I'm going to read between the lines here, okay? I feel that what's going on behind closed doors in Berea was that Kevin got sick and tired of taking darts on his reputation for things he didn't decide and things that were out of his control. I feel like the Kevin Stefanski we're going to get in 2025 is a less kinder, less gentler, more in charge head coach. I feel like what yesterday was to me was, I'm calling plays. It's my team now.
This is my show.
Yeah,
It's my show.
I mean, it's
and
just-
if I'm going to be fired, I'm going to be fired on my decisions.
It's the latest example. His post-season press conference felt that way too.
I
And
agree.
That's the reason I changed my mind ultimately about wanting to stick with him.
keeping him.
Yeah.
They fired Ken Dorsey and Andy Dickerson an hour and a half after the
Yes.
season
Yeah.
ended, basically.
Yes.
And they're going back to the wide zone that he loves. Tommy is a really highly thought of coordinator who there was a lot of interest in him around the league. He's going to fall right in line with what Kevin wants to operate this. Yeah. This is going to be the Kevin Stefanski offense from top to bottom.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm okay with
we
that.
all are. That's
now,
what
if Stefanski watches? I don't know if they think Will Howard is. Will Howard probably won't raise to this level, but I do think that, and I've talked to some other people that agree with this, that he's put himself in the first round, late in the first round, early in the second round. The one thing that I look at Will Howard that he does and does at an NFL level already is the play fake. He is a tremendous play faker.
I heard,
and I wonder if that will influence Kevin Stefanski. He's big. He's got the NFL size. He can run very well for someone his size.
I did hear, it was really interesting. I don't remember where I heard this yesterday, but I did hear a guy who used to be a coach or he was a scout in the NFL, and now he does like NFL draft stuff. I don't remember his name, but he said that Will Howard's athleticism will not translate to the NFL.
No, I don't think it will. He won't be able to run like that in the NFL.
He said, well, I didn't, I don't follow it close enough, but he said Kyle McCord will be drafted before Will Howard.
Interesting.
I don't see that happening.
It's so early. All the guys,
they're
but way over the board, and
I'm not gonna pretend to be an NFL draft.
I'm certainly not.
No.
Never pretending.
Here's what I would say about Will Howard. He had an unbelievable 4-game run against top competition. Those were the Blue Bloods, and he played great
in clutch moments.
Yes, but if you look at the body of work, the entire body of work, if you go back to the first Penn State game, and he had some throws that were just like, what are you looking at?
Right.
And that's what concerns me. If you want to take this to the Browns, Kevin's big thing is ball security.
It is.
And he got fooled. Will got fooled on some throws and some coverages that I thought early on were like, oh my God. And again, he got better as it went. But I thought he was awful at the end of the Oregon game on the road. I thought his clock management was terrible. He basically ran out of time.
Well, he cost them the game, really, basically, with his clock management.
So you have to look at the entire. My thing keeps popping up.
You have to factor in also that he's got absurd talent around him at Ohio.
He does.
Yes.
So,
but he was playing absurd talent in all four of those final games.
He was. And
he was playing elite NFL. A lot of guys are going to be drafted off those teams.
Absolutely. And, I mean, you should have absurd talent around you in the NFL, too. You should.
Let me ask you guys this real quick, and then we can move on to the Guardians. But assuming, and we're all in agreement, it's smokescreen. We're not reading anything too much into it. But let's just say this new Titans general manager is the first honest-to-goodness general manager in the history of sports.
To be honest.
And what he said is truth, and they end up taking Travis Hunter. Could the Browns be in a better position at 2 then with their choice of quarterback on the board than they would be in that ridiculous granted instance?
Yeah, of course, because there's 2 there, not 1.
Yeah.
If they take a quarterback, then the dilemma becomes, what if Tennessee takes the guy that the Browns were convinced was their guy?
Right.
Then the mistake you can make is just taking the other one because you need one. And
That's
that
true.
would be, I think that could be a disaster.
If Tennessee passes on a quarterback at 1 and takes a non-quarterback position, I think that tells you, because my first reaction is going to be, well, it just strengthens the trade value of 2. But it really doesn't, because if Tennessee could trade out of 1, they would.
I think you're right.
So I don't know that it really, other than the fact that if the Browns really love Cam Ward and they're convinced Tennessee was going to take him, they didn't take him, and now he's there for them to take. I don't know that it really changes their thoughts at 2, because if Tennessee could trade 1, they would trade 1. Mm-hmm. So if Tennessee stays at 1 and takes a non-quarterback, that tells you obviously they don't like those quarterbacks, and there wasn't that much value in that pick.
It also tells you that the Browns don't like or all the other teams don't, or they would have moved up to get them.
The teams below them, yeah. That's what I'm saying. I don't
know it necessarily means the Browns don't like him, but other teams weren't interested in trading up or weren't willing to give enough to trade up.
And that happens. Again, I'll go back to Cavs. I remember conversations the year of the Anthony Bennett draft and how much they hated that draft. And I'm not saying that this is I'm just saying.
There ended up being a superstar in that draft.
Giannis.
Right? Giannis, right, yeah.
But there was and they tried like hell to trade out of that spot. And there was no value. There was no one willing to come.
I don't know on the comparison of that draft to this NFL draft, but everybody that follows the draft and covers the draft for a living will tell you that this is a below average NFL draft, particularly at quarterback. And that, it's luck so often when you have the 1 or 2, what's available when you have it. The year the Bengals had it, it was a slam dunk, no-brainer. There's your franchise guy for the next 15 years.
Yep.
And
There was some people debating at the time. With Herbert and Tua.
I just thought,
for me, it seemed like a no-brainer.
for me, it did too, and for the Bengals, it did, and I think they made the right choice.
Sure.
Going back, I'm throw a number you want, 10 years, whatever, last 10, 15 drafts. There is still at least one franchise quarterback in every draft.
Not every,
even the worst
but
ones.
almost
Pretty much, because I went back, the one that jumped out to me was the Kenny Pickett year, and I told you Brock Purdy was in that.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean.
There was one year that there wasn't anybody, I think.
I don't know.
Almost every year.
Almost every year. And you're not always going to find them at 1-1.
Unfortunately
or
for
at
the
1-2.
Browns, this might be a year where there isn't.
And it may be the 7th guy off the board, and a team just ran into one and got lucky.
Could be Kyle McCord.
But
it could be Will Howard.
You
Who
never
knows?
know. Yeah.
I mean, nobody was saying about Brock Purdy at Mr. Irrelevant, last pick in the draft,
Of course not.
that he was going to change lives in San Francisco.
No.
By the way, Bernie said something to me. I had lunch with him last week. He said something very interesting about Brock Purdy, which is concerning. He had the same operation procedure on his elbow that Brock Purdy had. And Bernie's really concerned about Brock Purdy's career trajectory moving forward because of it.
Wow.
He told me something that was fascinating. He said the throws that I could make, he said if the best throw I could make was scored at 100, after the surgery, the best throw I could make was a 94. And he said, here's the difference. It sounds like, well, that's not bad. But he said the difference between 100 and a 94 in the NFL is a lot more picks.
Absolutely.
A lot more incompletions. Yep. And you're just not the same guy. And he said, I'm not predicting that Brock Purdy has peaked, but I'm going to be really impressed if he gets back to the level that he was because the procedure he had is such a bad procedure.
But I mean, Bernie's would have been, 30 years ago? I wonder if the technology has changed.
Maybe.
And
but when you watched Purdy this year, now granted, he was without a lot of weapons.
Yeah.
I was seeing things in Brock Purdy that I hadn't seen in his rookie year.
Yeah.
Now, let me give it. So, since 2016, there's been at least one good quarterback in each draft.
Okay.
So before that, there were a couple of years there were not. But in the last 10
That's 9-10 years.
16.
Yeah.
However, there are 2 years that you could question how good is
Who
the best
was the
quarterback.
best in those years? The guy that you would say was the best quarterback that came
In
out.
all those years?
Yeah.
Well, let me
in
give
the two that you say were no good.
So, in 2016, you had Jared Goff was the best. Jared Goff or Dak Prescott, both good.
Yeah.
Right? 2016. 2017, you had Mahomes. 2018, we would have said Deshaun Watson a few years
Well, there were a
ago.
lot in 18, right?
18, obviously.
Josh Allen, Lamar.
Darnold's back in the mix, Baker, and certainly Josh Allen and Lamar. Here's the one that, 2019, the only good quarterback 2019 is Kyler Murray. Is he a franchise quarterback? They paid him like one.
He has moments where he is, but he has other moments where
I think
he had a
good,
great year. This year
he
he
did.
had a
He
great
bounced back
Great's a
nicely.
little strong.
He's pretty good.
Compared to where he was.
I don't know that I would want him to be my quarterback.
Yeah. 2020, obviously, Burrow, Herbert.
Yeah.
Sure.
2021, this is the biggest question mark. The only good quarterback out of 2021 is Trevor Lawrence. And I don't know. I mean, he's trending in the wrong direction. I'll still give him a chance. The next best is
he
in that
had
draft
that great
is Justin
year a couple
Fields.
of years ago and then just fell flat.
And then obviously, so I would say Trevor Lawrence is the worst number one quarterback of any draft for the last 10 years.
And he went 1-1.
And he went 1-1.
Yeah, he did.
And he's still, I'm not writing him off yet, but it's not looking great.
One interesting thing, Ben Johnson mentioned this at his introductory press conference. I don't know if you guys caught it. A couple people clipped this and put it on Twitter. He said, quarterback success is a better predictor for wins and losses now than turnover ratio. Turnover ratio was the standard.
Used to be If you win the turnover margin, and the top teams in the turnover ratio always are the top teams in the NFL.
And now it's QB success. Well, how do you measure QB success? There's a million different ways.
One of the ways you measure it is turnover ratio. The two are tied.
But so I reached out to my guy at True Media who pulls all kinds of incredible numbers for me, and I don't have them off at hand. But basically, I'll probably write about this in a few days. Basically, he said, wow, Ben Johnson's exactly right. And if you go to like EPA per dropback, and we're going to get in the nitty-gritty here for a second, but expected points added per dropback when the quarterback has the ball in his hands. If you have a positive EPA per dropback, it is more predictive of winning than if you turn the ball over. So you can turn the ball over, but as long as you still have a positive EPA, you're still going. And in the playoffs, it's even higher. The percentage is even higher.
Right.
And so I was like, and we were talking about like, all right, so what does that mean to you? And he said, well, to me, it means you can't win anymore with a game manager and elite defense. Like more than ever, you've got to have elite quarterback play. Yeah. And maybe that's and
part of that
but
is
the numbers really
it's not
bear that
sustainable, right? Like the way the Browns won last year with terrible quarterback play was not sustainable.
Yeah.
You can't win. There'll be anomalies where you see a team get to the playoffs.
Well, Philly's 2 wins away from winning a Super Bowl, and they're doing it because they've got the best running game in the NFL.
I still think Jalen Hurts is a top 10 quarterback.
I like
in my
Hurts,
opinion.
yeah.
Hurts is a fine quarterback. He's a serviceable quarterback. But I'm going to put him more in, not a game manager.
No.
But I'm not going to put him in.
I mean, he's not in the top 4 guys that we talk about all the time.
No.
He may be in the top 10, but I think
he's
he would
in the
be
second group, maybe
Agreed.
the end of the second group.
I think he's around 10, 12.
Yeah, right, somewhere around there.
And for me,
can you win with those guys?
I don't think.
And
I
you know
think
what? We'll find out in 3 weeks.
I think you can't. Like, I think the top 4 are different. I think in that next group, 5 through. And by the way, if Jaden Daniels does it again next year, he's going to move into that top group. But I think guys 5 through 12, or wherever that line happens to be, it might be different by year. I think you can win with those guys, but the team around them's got to be really good. And then after that, I don't think you can win below that.
Did you guys hear the stat on Jaden Daniels that Aaron Andrews gave before the Lions game?
No.
I didn't look this up. I wanted to. It would be a little difficult to track down, but I'm trusting that they got it right. They've got a huge research staff.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe this stat. She said Jaden Daniels, in his rookie season, has more no punt, no turnover games than Joe Montana, Peyton Manning, and Patrick Mahomes combined for their careers.
Well,
I gave you that stat when they played the Browns. He had beaten those guys in week 3 of the season.
That's almost incredible.
Actually, I don't think it's that surprising because Washington goes for it on 4th down all the time.
There are a lot of reasons
and
for it.
Montana and Manning never did that.
Well, there's a lot of reasons for it, but you're talking about 40-plus years of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, and this dude has done it in 1 season.
Yeah.
I think it is meaningful compared to Mahomes because he's playing in this era.
That's
Apples to apples.
Montana's a little different.
But you know what? Even Andy Reid doesn't go for it on 4th down like
they don't.
Campbell or like
but they
like
still
Quinn
go
does.
for it on 4th down.
They do.
More than teams when Montana played.
So I call that's a perfect game. That's how a quarterback, there's no perfect game really. Like you can complete all of your passes. To me, a perfect game by a quarterback is that stat. You don't turn it over and you don't punt. You're going to win those games.
Well, hang on. Think about that. Just because you don't punt, if you go for it and I know the Commanders were excellent on 4th down.
Right.
But if you go for it on 4th down and you don't make it, that should count as a turnover. That's a turnover.
It depends on where it is on the field.
And that doesn't take in that stat you just said doesn't take into account how many times they went for it on 4th down and didn't.
But here's the problem. Guys aren't going for it when it's more than 4th and 4.
Sure, of course.
Okay, they're going to punt on 4th and 4 because that's the line.
If you go on 4th and 2 and you don't get it, to me,
I get what you're
that
saying,
should count
Jason.
in the
In
stats.
a way, it is.
That should be a turnover.
But what if it's on the 30-yard line?
Doesn't matter. It's a
I
turnover.
mean, it could be a turnover at the 30-yard line, too.
Technically, it's not counted as a turnover. I get your point.
It should.
Yeah.
You can argue
I've
that
always
it is.
thought that.
I'm wondering how many times they even did that. I think their conversion rate on 4th down was number 1 in the
excellent.
And what's
NFL.
interesting, too, is it's not like they had an incredible running game. I mean, their running backs are fine. Brian Robinson's a good player, but, like, they don't have a Saquon Barkley there.
No, but I'd imagine a lot of their 4th down conversions
were him
running.
Yeah, he was fantastic.
He's he's unbelievable.
If they win, he's the first rookie to ever start a Super Bowl at quarterback. Obviously.
Well, we'll make our playoff picks in the TV show coming up, so make sure y'all stay tuned for that. We're going to pivot over and talk a little Guardians. Make sure you guys download the WKYC Plus app. If you're not in Cleveland, you can watch the 12:30 to 1 WKYC show on the app. It's as simple as clicking the download button on your phone. I'm going to let Bull explain this next topic, which revolves around the Paul Sewald signing yesterday by the Guardians. I'm curious what Jay and Jason think of Bull's theory that he pitched on the show yesterday that I did not see coming, and I'm curious what you guys think on the potential of
I
this.
got this from my guy Mike Farron at MLB Radio because he brought it up, and I was listening to him, and I was like, this makes a lot of sense. So he speculated that when the Guardians signed Paul Sewald, he thought it was a very odd move for them because
you're adding to one of your strengths.
Right, and the Guardians don't really ever spend significant money as on relief pitchers. They don't like when's the last time they spent big money on a relief pitcher?
Last year.
They did?
Yeah. But go ahead, continue.
Who?
I'll tell you. Continue.
Okay. And
Yeah, I'm curious to see who too.
The other part of that is, they made that trade.
Barlow.
Barlow, right, yeah. So
Yeah, that is the first time.
if you combine that with the fact that they have so much depth, like their bullpen is loaded. Like even the guys that played at the end of the year, Walters, Sobrowski, these guys are big-time talents. So Mike suggested that this could be a precursor for the Guardians trading one of their better bullpen arms that are less expensive to improve their lineup. And the more I thought about that, and he suggested a couple of teams. He brought up the Cubs. He brought up, because the Cubs have a lot of good outfielders. And he brought up Arizona. But there's other teams. And the more I thought about it, the more I think it makes sense. Now, I don't know if that's the plan. The Guardians might just be saying, hey, we know our lineup is not good enough to compete with the best lineups. Our rotation could be good. It depends how some of these guys from last year bounce back and how Bieber bounces back. Our strength is our bullpen. And they traded a couple of guys off that bullpen.
Right, that's why
Let's double down.
That's why I'm not so sure that I buy that theory.
Yeah.
They've already moved 2 good pieces out of their bullpen. And I'm not sure that.
But what I would say to that is they have so many good pieces in their pen.
I know they
that
do.
I think, and in my opinion, they have to get better in the lineup. You have traded away your second best offensive player in Josh Naylor.
Yep.
Now, Andres Jimenez offensively obviously hasn't been very good the last couple of years, but whoever they're replacing with has not proven that they're any good either.
Right.
Kyle Manzardo showed a lot of promise at the end of last year, but he's still a rookie. We don't know. I have high expectations for him personally.
I do too.
But we'll see. And David Fries, who was your third or fourth best hitter last year, is going to miss half the season.
I know.
So in my opinion, they are desperate for not just a bat, but a legitimate bat. And maybe the Guardians said, hey, listen, on the free agent market, we can't get a big-time bat because we're not going to spend $20, $25 million. But we can sign a good relief pitcher in Paul Sewald, who's been a closer. He's been really good. And we could take either Gaddis or maybe even Clase. And I think Guardians have to be open to anything in the right deal. And maybe we can get that proven good hitter who's not making the money that some of these free agents are
I'll
making.
buy that, but here's the problem I have with that. Sewald was available to anybody for $7 million.
Right, but they're not trading Sewald.
Well, who are they going to trade?
You suggested Clase yesterday, Bull. Save the chest.
Wow.
I just said Clase again now.
It's not ridiculous. They
No.
were listening last year.
Yes.
Like, they were listening on Clase last year.
I know they were.
Yeah.
So,
And the way he pitched in the playoffs?
and that's the thing. So, he obviously had an incredible year, a phenomenal year, which you would think would help his value. Got destroyed by the Yankees.
Yeah.
So, what kind of scar does
Got
that
hit hard
leave?
by the Tigers, too.
I still think his value is very high.
I think it is too.
Because with him, if you trade for him, not only do you get the best closer in baseball, he's completely cost controlled. You know how much you're paying him
For
every
what,
year.
2 more years?
I think,
4.
Mike, can you double check that? I think it's 4.
He's got 2 years left.
And then 2 options,
And then
right?
2 options.
Of who? He has the
Club
Wow.
options. At
So you have
$10
4
million a
years
year.
of control at minimal money.
They know him better than anyone.
Yeah.
Obviously, they know his psyche. They know his mentality.
Yeah.
If they think that what happened to him in the postseason has damaged him in any way, they probably should listen aggressively on offers because his value is so high.
And you should be able to get multiple bats for him.
But here's where. So there's a reason why I think you're right and a reason why I think you're wrong.
And by the way, Cade Smith or Hunter Gaddis are ready to step into that closer role
Cade
tomorrow.
Smith ain't going anywhere. He's making
No. But what I'm saying is, if you how many teams have the luxury of if you were to trade the best closer in baseball, you've got 1A right behind
I
him.
actually think they might consider, if they did trade Clase, making Sewald the closer to keep Cade Smith
in that role
with
that
the flexibility.
Sewald
to use him in
has
different
experience
innings.
as a closer, and
Yeah.
and here's why you may be onto something because. You said they need to replace Naylor. Well, they did with Carlos Santana. You may not
that's
like it.
true. Yeah, you're right.
But
they still need an outfielder.
But here's what they did. They took what value Naylor had, and I didn't think they're going to trade Naylor. I thought they were going to keep him, and I thought that the value that he brings on the field is more than he could bring in trade.
Right.
But they saw Carlos Santana and said, this is comparable to what this guy is. We can get him for about the same money, and we can get an asset for this before we lose it for nothing. So let's bring this in for a comparable value, get something back for this, which we don't want to invest in long term. So you could say, okay, well, could you do that with Sewald? You bring him in, we can trade a Gaddis at comparable value, although the money is not even close in terms of,
right.
You know, obviously Sewald's
and
making
you're not getting
more.
as good a player for Gaddis as you are for Clase.
And I would argue Santana is not as good as Naylor, although
he's not, of course not.
Other people would argue, no,
well,
it
he's
is
better
pretty close.
defensively,
right?
but
and that's
offensively
why.
he's not better.
And the age is a factor too.
And
Like, at what point does he get old?
Right. Yes.
He already should have.
And
That's
the fact
true.
that they already listened on Clase, they were exploring last winter. And is he damaged from last year? Only they know that.
That's right.
And I don't like the way that he handled some of the mental
was bad.
stuff. The way that he ran off
Leaving
and didn't
the
talk.
clubhouse,
And then he goes home and he's making Instagram videos and posting all. I didn't like
trophies.
that.
Now,
I didn't
let me
like
tell you
that
something.
either.
If you do trade Clase, you have to get hitters that are in the majors.
Of course.
Yeah,
And
you need-
maybe
Even if they're prospects that are ready to play in the
here's
majors, you have to.
I think you need plug and play guys,
but here's-
not prospects.
But
Yeah,
here's
that's
the
true.
other thing about the way that they operate,
Yeah.
and they've operated this way. I know for at least the last 5 years or so, if it has to be a drastic upgrade over what they have for them to pursue, Matt Olson was a drastic upgrade
Right.
over Naylor at first when they were going after Olson. I always forget, Sean Murphy, the catcher,
Yeah.
was a drastic upgrade over what they had. That's why they pursued him.
Yeah.
If it's just a guy, they're going to roll with their young guys every time because they've made that mistake
and they
in
should,
the past.
and I agree with that.
Well, they have to. Their economic model insists that they do it that way.
I'm not sure. Listen, one guy we talked about a little bit yesterday, and he's a big upgrade over what they have in the outfield, is Ian Happ from the Cubs.
Yeah, he'd be an upgrade.
He's not a superstar.
But is he
he's
an
an all-star.
Is he a Matt Olson, Sean Murphy
No,
type
but he's an
upgrade?
all-star, Jason, and he's a Gold Glover too. So you're getting an excellent defensive player. I think in that case you'd move Quan to center and play
I
Happ
think
at
the
left.
Cubs are getting.
Now he's only got 2 years left.
No,
on his deal.
who's the guy from the Astros, the former closer of the Astros?
Oh well, yes, they.
Wait,
I forgot his name. Presley, Ryan Presley. I think Presley's going.
But
to
he's
Chicago.
got a no trade
Wow.
clause. That's not it. Bob Nightingale said it was a done deal, but apparently it's
I'm
not.
not listening to Bob Nightingale. Our
Yeah,
guys
yeah.
said that they were.
They're talking because the Cubs need more back end
Right.
relief help.
But here's why I think that this is much ado about nothing, and
Yeah.
they just want an extra arm. They just did it last year with Scott Barlow, and he made almost the same identical money
but-
that Sewald's making now. Is right around $7 million.
the difference is that Kate Smith and Gaddis weren't what they are now.
Sure, but I think you had it right initially.
Yeah.
That what is $7 million going to buy you in a starting pitching market?
Nothing. Somebody
What's-
said, one of my friends
or a
was
bat.
Yeah.
What's $7 million going to buy you in a lineup?
No, but yeah,
nothing.
you know,
but
I think
$7 million
will buy you in a
really good
rotation.
reliever,
Will
and
buy
this-
you Cal Quantrill.
And this has become such a. I don't even think it gets you that, honestly.
Yeah, I think he could.
But it has become such a bullpen-dominated game now.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
keep loading up, keep loading. They had
Yeah.
3 guys last year that they could count on, and those guys were gassed by the
Yeah.
end. So if you can make it 4, okay, make it 4.
I think it could be 7.
Because there's no. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Clase, Gaddis,
Yeah.
Kate Smith, and now if you want to put if Sewald proves that
Yeah.
he can be in that. So now you've just got more bang for your buck for that $7 million than you can get in the lineup.
That
than
is
you can get in the
correct.
rotation. So keep adding to the strength because this is such a. I mean, we're pulling starters now in the 3rd inning, in the 4th inning of postseason games.
For $7 million at this point, you're getting like a washed-up Anthony Rizzo for maybe
Yeah.
$7 million, or a Cal Quantrill, and maybe you're right. Maybe
I don't
even
even think.
Cal,
I think Quantrill's $10 million. I think.
yeah, maybe
10 to 12.
I don't know, but yes, you're getting. Paul Sewald had a bad second half last year. He got hurt. He had some mechanical issues.
and that's, to me, that's probably why he only got $7 million.
Yeah, but also it's that relief pitchers get more money. But guy's been a good closer for the Mariners. And by
very
the
good.
way,
His batting average against is lower than Clase's.
I didn't know that.
And there's
but-
not many pitchers last year that had a lower batting average against.
And Stephen Vogt knows him because Vogt was the
Would have
bullpen
been with him in
coach
Seattle.
in Seattle
Yeah.
when he was.
So
in
I
Seattle.
don't think they're going to move Clase, but I certainly wouldn't rule it out.
I think they have to be open to.
And they
offers.
are. They proved that last year.
I could definitely see them moving Gaddis. That's not as earth-shattering a move, and you might be like how.
Yeah,
good
but the
I don't think
return
the
isn't going to be
value-
nearly
yeah.
as great as it is
well,
on
but
Clase.
you might have to take a prospect instead of a proven hitter. I don't know.
Yeah, but he's a big piece to the bullpen. If you're going to lose one of these big pieces to the bullpen, with Jason's right, those pieces are more valuable now. They're no longer pawns; they're bishops.
But
and if you're just going to start giving them away, I want a guy. If it's Gaddis, Smith, I agree, untouchable, or Clase. I need a proven bat that's plug and play ready right now. That's gonna make a difference in this offense.
With Clase, definitely. Here's the thing about like Hunter Gaddis. Guys like Hunter Gaddis, I'm not saying this is going to happen. There's a lot of guys, and we've seen this every year in Major League Baseball. There's a lot of guys that have a great year, and then the next year they're not the same.
More at that position than anywhere position else. In ball.
Here's why I like Gaddis is I think, I don't have the numbers to back this up.
Yeah.
I think former starters converted into relievers have a higher success rate because they have a better pitch mix. You're not just a one-pitch, two-pitch pitcher.
Right.
Gaddis has 4 pitches, I think.
Yeah.
And so, I think the managers feel more comfortable using those guys back-to-back situations or multiple inning situations because their DNA is stretched out.
I'm just saying, like baseball, it's just the bullpens are so unpredictable.
Particularly year to year.
And that's why relief pitchers don't get as much money unless they're, studs.
I will plant the flag on they are not going to make a major move in the bullpen. This is just shoring up an already a strength because they see where the game is going with bullpens.
Yeah.
But certainly don't rule it out.
I do not like the lineup at all.
I don't either. There's holes. Yeah. There are definite holes in the lineup.
Yeah.
I'm more discouraged, to be honest with you guys. I'm more discouraged when you compare what they've done and how they've changed their team. And it wasn't just some slight changes. They made some huge changes to this team. When you compare these changes to the changes that the team that is already on the top of the hill made, the disparity between the haves and the have-nots or the champion and everybody else, I think got bigger. I think the Dodgers improved themselves more than any other team, and they were already the best team.
But at least they're in the National League. I don't think the Yankees are better. I'm not buying. There's a lot of propaganda.
No, I'm not buying the Yankees are either, but I'm looking strictly at the Dodgers. And here's, I did a podcast last night with a guy, and we were talking baseball, and this is the point that I made. What I'm rooting for in this postseason is the Dodgers to run the table. Sweep every single layer of the playoffs.
Win 130 games.
Win 100. I said that. I actually said I want the Dodgers to win 130 games.
Yeah.
I want them to sweep every single round of the playoffs. I want the ratings to tank, and I want Major League Baseball, the folks that run Major League Baseball, to finally wake up and look at this and say, uh-oh, now we have a problem.
Now, listen, I just want to say this for the record. It doesn't really matter because what's happening is bad for the sport. But for the record, I believe the Dodgers are not the bad guys here. The teams that don't spend are the bad guys.
And Bull, I don't even know that they are. I think that.
Well, I think they are because
they're
taking money from the other teams and not spending it.
They are, but they're doing. They found a loophole that they're taking advantage of.
Yes,
just
that's
like
true.
the Dodgers found a loophole that they're taking advantage of.
But the Dodgers loophole is trying to win. The other teams are not trying to win.
I know, but they're trying to make money. And can you fault them for that? Like, if you can make more money losing 90 games than the team that wins 90 games, you've incentivized poor play.
That's right.
And if you have a floor and a ceiling, I think it fixes everything.
If you need to make money, get out.
I agree with that.
If you need to make money to own a team, then get out.
But here's the problem. When they vet these owners at the time of purchase, they told guys like Mark Cuban, no, we don't want you.
Yeah, it was stupid.
In the meantime, they tell Paul Dolan and the Larry Dolan group, come on in. Yeah. They were cash poor to begin with. They didn't have empires of $1 billion. He was a lawyer. And so when you're Major League Baseball and you're keeping guys like Mark Cuban who would spend freely out of the sport and bringing guys in that are looking for money in couch cushions to sign players, you've created this mess.
Yeah.
And they're the only ones that can fix it.
The NBA owners, the small market owners rallied together and put all of these things in place that we're seeing now. I talk about all the time.
I made that comparison last night as well.
But here's the thing, for small market owners in baseball, they love to see the Dodgers spend because the money's going in their pocket.
Yeah, right. And
I know
that's got to change.
I know they do, but it's because the system incentivizes losing. I mean, to a certain extent, it's not punitive if you lose 90 games. You're getting big checks.
Nobody cares.
And if you have a low payroll, you're making money.
Nobody cares about the fans.
The difference in the NBA in payrolls from top to bottom, from like, I put this in our text, from like 2 or 3 to like 28 or 29, it's a $20 million difference. Think about that.
It's unbelievable.
From the top to the bottom, from the very top to the very bottom, it's like $40 million, I think.
Yeah.
45
now,
million.
The nature of baseball, it's okay to have more disparity than in the other sports, but
Why?
not to the point it is now.
Why?
Because money within reason, the Dodgers is not within reason
There's
anymore.
a $300 million more than that.
Right, and that's too much. I'm just saying I'm okay with the disparity being bigger in baseball because the difference between $180 million payroll and $130 million payroll could
negligible.
be meaningless in baseball because, I mean, the Mets, or 2 years ago, the Mets had the highest payroll in baseball, didn't even make the playoffs.
Right.
Because if you spend it, spending in baseball
Doesn't mean you're going to win.
correlate to winning as much.
Right,
It
I agree with
raises
that.
your floor, I
But
think.
still, I think what they need to do is take the total sum of player salaries and come up with, okay, so that's the number. Let's just say, for the sake of this argument, that it's $100 billion. I have no idea what the total payroll is. What you need to do is figure out there's 30 teams, so that would mean that the average, let's say it's $1 billion. I don't even know. Whatever that sum is, divide it by 30, and then, and you can't make that the payroll. What you do, though, is you go down 20% and up 20%, and there's your floor and there's your ceiling. And then there's no more than 40% spending difference between the bottom and the top.
Right.
That is going to lead to equality in baseball. Much more than we have it now.
Sure.
You've got the Pirates, you've got these teams that are spending $80 million a year fighting for the same trophy that the Dodgers are, and they spend $400 million.
They're really not trying to win. I mean, the
No,
Pirates are not
they
trying
can
to
still
win.
make money.
And
the fans suffer.
Yeah, the fans suffer most of all. But the thing is, if we want this salary cap, which I'm sure most Guardians fans do, and I get it, and I think it would be better for the fans if there was a salary cap.
I agree.
The only way that has any chance of happening, and I think even in this is very unlikely, you're going to miss a whole season. There's going to be a whole season where there's no baseball.
But the reason I say that you won't is because you have to assure the players that the total pool of money is going to stay the same. What you're doing is you're spreading that out over 30 teams instead of 4.
I just don't think they'll ever agree to a salary cap without missing a year.
The way you win the Players Association over is you say, look, you guys collectively last year made $600 million. The collective pool is going to go up 3% every year. So next year, you're going to make $630 million. Nobody's going to lose money here. We're just going to spread it out over 30 instead of 4.
I just don't think there's any. I get what you're saying.
They're making more money.
Yeah, but they're not going to look at it that way, and they're going to think that the lower market teams are going to, they're going to get loopholes for them to not spend.
Look what the NBA has done, and we talked about the era of the Big Three.
Yeah.
The teams of note right now in the NBA: Oklahoma City, Cleveland, Memphis. These are middle of America teams that aren't coastal. They don't have these huge.
The players don't care about that in the NBA or
maybe not, Bull. But I think this is great for the sport.
Look at Kansas City and Buffalo in the NFL.
Exactly. Small markets.
I'm telling you, the players' union in baseball is much stronger than the other sports.
They are. I think they're the strongest union perhaps in the world.
They're never going to go for it.
But Bull, what you have to assure them is, we're going to build in more salary for your members. So if your members today are making $600 million, we're going to guarantee you that next year you're going to make $650 million. And the year after that, it's going to be $700 million.
I guess if they could guarantee something like that, maybe, but there's no trust. The players don't trust the owners at all.
Yeah.
And that's going to be hard to
overcome. And there's a reason, because the owners won't open their books.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
All right, we got one last topic here in the YouTube show. We're going to talk some more Guardians.
By the way, Quinshon Judkins is not this is
officially
a
headed
surprise.
to the NFL.
He's headed to the NFL.
Last read here comes from Game Time. You guys know I love going to live events, concerts, games, comedy shows. It's better live, and I always use Game Time because it makes getting my tickets to those events even easier, especially with their new feature, Game Time Picks. This filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Ant was on Game Time earlier, found $58 seats to tomorrow's Cavs-Rockets rematch at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Once again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time.
So we've been talking about the Cam Johnson trade rumors with the Cavs over the last couple of days, and every time we've mentioned Cam Johnson, we have gotten a plethora of comments saying, what about Brandon Ingram? Now, we talked about Brandon Ingram at length as a potential target for the Cavs prior to the season, and here's a little update on Brandon Ingram for you. He's been out with an ankle injury since December 7th. He has not played in over a month. He's expected back sometime in the next 2-3 weeks. And New Orleans has basically said, if anyone wants him, take him. We will take anything we can get back for him. He is on an expiring contract. He wants a long-term extension. New Orleans is not willing to spend the long-term extension on Brandon Ingram, and he's basically just being dangled out there for whatever you can get. Mm-hmm. You still have to match the money, which plays a part in this, but you don't have to give up the assets and draft capital that you previously would have. So at an extreme discount, and that is simply just matching the Ingram money to make the deal work, would you guys be interested in a Brandon Ingram to Cleveland kind of move?
Jason?
Mike and I had this discussion the other day. And Mike, do you have the names of what makes the money match?
Yes.
So
if you want
it's
the
a
names
lot.
to make this work, it's literally the perfect match money-wise. It's LeVert, Okoro, Niang for Ingram. That's the deal.
Would they actually be able to knock out that $1 million also to get below the apron? Aren't they like $1 million over the apron?
They're $2 million into the tax ish. $2 million ish into the tax.
Would that be able to knock that down too, or no? I guess I shouldn't worry about that.
It's probably an exact match, right?
It's within $500,000, so it wouldn't get him under anything.
So you said Niang, Okoro, and
LeVert for Ingram.
I personally would rather have Brandon Ingram than any of those three players.
Sure.
Yeah, but all three of them together.
Fine.
You don't care.
Fine, I don't care.
Wow.
Because you're not playing.
Two of those three are not going to play in the playoffs anyway.
No, they
More
won't.
than likely. So give me the top end talent. Here's the problem: here's where Mike and I disagree. I don't know where Mike falls on this now. Initially, we disagreed on this. Mike said, "I want him as a rental. I'm not re-signing him." I said, "I'm only doing it if I re-sign him because you've got Okoro for the next however many years. You've got Niang for next year. LeVert he's a free agent. But if you make that trade and you don't re-sign Brandon Ingram, all you have is the mid-level to try and sign guys next year. I would
hurts you down the road.
I would make that trade only if you can re-sign Ingram. But if you re-sign him, particularly the type of money he's looking for, I don't see how you avoid being a second apron team next year.
I don't either.
Which really handcuffs you.
And Mike, someone's going to pay him, right?
I don't think he's going to get the $50 million he's looking
agree.
for,
I don't
but
think
someone's going to give him something, yes.
Big.
How old is he?
Not nearly as old as you think. Ingram is, I'll get you his exact
Mid-20s?
birthday. Yeah,
Wow.
I think he's 27.
And
I would have him almost 30.
Hasn't he been hurt every
yeah, he's
year?
27.
Damn.
Yeah, he's injury prone.
He's definitely injury prone.
You got to get
And
him.
that scares me.
Sure. Yeah. But like if you're looking at just talent for talent, I'd rather have Brandon Ingram than Isaac Okoro for sure.
Of course.
How do you see
Niang.
him fitting in with what they would have?
It's not a perfect fit.
It's not exactly what they're looking for.
How tall is he?
Tall.
He's tall.
6'10".
He's tall.
Oh, he's 6'10".
6'9", 6'10".
So why is he not a perfect fit? Just because he needs the ball a lot?
Well, he's not. His game, in my view, doesn't equate to, like, if you're going to list the skill set that the player that the Cavs are most in need of, I don't think he's that.
Yeah, he's I don't want to say ball stopper, but he is an isolation guy that likes to have the ball in his hands, and he likes to dribble and control as opposed to the free-flowing offense the Cavs have.
Yep.
Has he ever been on a winning team?
Not really.
No?
He
Not
was
really.
drafted by the Lakers when they were terrible. The Pelicans have been terrible.
I mean, the information we don't have, and maybe Mike or Jason have some of this information, is what kind of guy, what kind of teammate is he? Is he willing to, adjust his game, and how tough that would be? I mean, why don't you answer that question first?
I mean, it's hard to say. Some guys who all they've known is a losing culture.
Yeah.
You put them in a winning culture, and they start playing winning basketball because they've got winning people around them.
Right.
I mean, Kyrie was like that. Kyrie was in a terrible culture when he was when they were, and then, throughout his career has progressed, he's turned into a more of a winning player. So, but it's impossible. I don't know how you
know that.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know how you really know that until you put him in that spot.
I'll say this. It seems to us that the Cavs are going to be a really good team for the next bunch of years.
Yeah.
But you never know. Let's say they don't make a trade here at the deadline, which they might not because they don't have a ton to give up. And let's say they lose in the conference finals. and then the next bunch of years, Donovan gets hurt or Mobley gets hurt, and they never really get back. We might say, you know what, they should have just gone for it then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though we
you're
thought
right.
they had all these young players. And maybe it won't go down that way, but Brandon Ingram.
There's also a scenario where they do go for it and it blows up.
Of course.
So
you
it's-
never know.
No, it's the great unknown.
Yes. I mean, it seems like Cam Johnson would be a much better fit. He's a younger
I would rather
player.
have Cam Johnson than Brandon Ingram.
But
I agree. I think he's more the fit that the Cavs are looking for.
It doesn't seem realistic that they could get Cam Johnson, whereas Brandon Ingram is realistic. Brandon Ingram, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike or Jason, is probably the best possible player they could get. They could actually get. And so if that's the case, I don't think I would do it today. I'd maybe wait till trade deadline day and see if I can get somebody better.
I haven't said. I actually just thought of this.
Yeah.
What if you call Utah and try and get Lauri Markkanen back?
Oh, my God.
No, they can't trade him this year
They
Why?
can't?
because he signed the day he signed his extension. He signed it. I'll look up the exact verbiage.
Are you
But
sure?
yeah, because remember he was in all these trade rumors, and part of the reason he signed the deal on the day is because he said, "I want to be in Utah.
It was
I want
past
to raise
the. It was past the.
yes."
deadline.
Because
Oh.
he was being
I
rumored
didn't realize
to
that.
he was being rumored to Golden State, and he was like, "I want to put an end to this. I'm not signing my contract in this first window. I'm signing it on this day because then that protects me from actually being."
I don't remember that.
He'd be the
This
perfect
season.
guy.
I didn't realize
I
that.
think he'd be the perfect fit.
Because, I didn't realize that he was ineligible to be traded this year.
If
Never
it's
mind.
the day of the trade deadline and the Cavs can't get Cam Johnson or another guy who would be younger and maybe fit in more, in the end, Brandon Ingram, for 3 role players, he's an all-star caliber player.
If he's healthy, if his
Right.
mindset's right.
So I'd wait
there's-
till the
there's
last minute
risk.
on it, but
There's
I-
risk involved.
Of course.
I would rather Brandon Ingram than any of those 3 players.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can answer
Right.
that.
Because he's the best player in a vacuum.
But I remember talking to Griff in the previous era when they got Mozgov, and there were better players that he could go get over Timo. But he's like, we don't need another star. We got plenty of guys who need the ball. And he said, we need a guy who can fill space, eat rebounds, and fits on the cap and fits in the locker room.
Right.
And he was right. Like I thought it doesn't matter. I thought they way overpaid for Mozgov at the time, but his point was they didn't need another star. They just needed somebody to fill.
And that
the
may be
role.
the case,
and
yeah.
that may be why you shy away from a Brandon Ingram, which I don't even know if you would call him a star necessarily, but certainly he's a bigger name than the 3 guys that you've got on this team. But do they fill the role better?
Would you do it, Mike?
I'd think about it. I'd want to see all my options. The pros of Ingram, specifically with this team, is come playoff time when defense ramps up. You need some guys who go one-on-one and get you a bucket, especially on the second unit if you don't have Darius and Donovan on the court together. And Brandon Ingram has proven
He can do that.
He can go do that.
Yeah.
I do think he's a clunky fit, and this is why I was anti-Ingram before the season. I think he's a clunky fit with the core. Like, he wants the ball. He wants the ball in the high post, and he wants you to spread out, and he wants to be the initiator. He doesn't shoot corner threes. You want to know corner threes he's taken this year? He's
How
played
many?
19 games. He's taken 114 threes on the season. He's averaged about 7 a game. He's taken 11 in the corner. He averages like 0.6 a game in the corner.
So he doesn't like that spot.
He does not like just standing in the corner, which, talk about Cam Johnson. Cam Johnson, the 93rd percentile in the NBA in corner threes this
but
season.
again, it's not Mike.
I'm just saying. I'm saying why he's not necessarily the perfect fit.
Does anybody really think the Cavs can get Cam Johnson? I don't. How is that possible?
I would not rule it out.
But why? There's
I
got to
would
be
rule it
teams that have more to offer, doesn't there?
Yeah, but I'm just like, I mean, Joe wrote the story a few days ago, and
Yeah.
I've talked to Joe, and I know who Joe was talking to.
Yeah.
I'll just tell you is I wouldn't rule it out.
Okay,
like,
good.
There must be some smoke.
Well,
there.
then, yeah, but I'm saying, Mike, if it
Do
comes
I think it's
down to
likely? No.
If it
Do I think
comes-
it's possible? I'm not going to rule it out.
the bottom line is if it comes down, let's say we're on the trade deadline day and the Cam Johnson ship has sailed, wouldn't you make the move?
I'm a notorious Brandon Ingram hater, so I wouldn't. But I totally understand anyone who would
Yeah.
want to.
Why do you hate him?
I just don't like his game.
You don't?
I don't like a high usage mid range shooter who's always hurt.
I think
and
you'd
you
yeah.
have to hit your bandwagon to him because
That's true.
like
The
I said, you
injured,
don't.
the often injured thing, and he's injured again now.
And the other thing that I worry about, and I don't know what
But
his
I totally
reputation is.
if someone sorry to cut you off, Jay.
That's okay.
If someone wanted to make that deal, I 100% understand the reasons why you'd want to make it. I just don't particularly like his game.
One of my concerns would be what it does to the chemistry of the team. Because right now everybody is selfless. You know, they're all looking to make the extra pass because they know when they don't have the ball in their hands, the extra pass might find them. When you put somebody in there that is another ball-dominant player, I don't know what disruption that brings to the offense.
I would think the Cavs would want to talk to him before they make any kind of trade like that. I don't know if that's possible.
Well, the one thing about it, obviously, with these two organizations, the two guys running them are very close.
And they've made trades.
With Griff and Kobe. Yeah. And, I mean, Griff and Kobe Griff officiated Kobe's wedding. So these guys are really tight. So I think that they would be straight with each other.
Yeah.
I think the Cavs will have all the information that they would need in a Brandon Ingram type situation. Probably more so than it's a really unique situation between those two teams.
If the Cavs end up making that trade, we're not coming on here saying what a stupid trade.
No, of course not.
No.
I do think whatever move they make, they need to try and address the tax issue, one way or another.
Right.
So. Little teaser for next week because we got to do super chats to wrap it up. I'm just whipping together some fun trades for the Cavs. Some are more realistic. Some go in the way crazy. They will never happen, but I like trade machines, so I decided
it'd be fun to imagine what if.
Yeah, one of them, I'm just telling you right now, people. I'm going to tell them before I put the trade up, this would never happen. This is just for fun, and people are going to get so mad at me for this. I already know it's going to happen, but we're going to have some fun with it. All right, super chats. We just have 2 today, and both come from our friend Salvatore the 216. His first super chat says All-Star Game should be Team USA versus Team World.
I'd watch.
Which we have mentioned before.
No, we have talked about that.
It'd be fun, and to Jason's point, it'd be a hell of a matchup.
And you just inserted patriotism, which is the number one reason why the number one watched sporting event in the United States every 2 years is the Olympics. We don't care about shot put, but if you put USA against Russia, we're into it.
Yep. And then his other super chat says, as a member, I can't find overtime on any device but my phone. Help. I don't know if anyone else has that issue. I know how we watch overtime from our back end. I don't know how people watch it from anywhere else.
Mike's always talking about his back end.
Always.
I assume you just go to the membership tab on the YouTube page, and it should pop up. Salvatore, I don't really know the answer to that one for you. I'm sorry, man.
It's a bad job.
And you watched overtime / know how to access overtime as a viewer?
Maybe other viewers can help you on this.
That's what I'm saying, Salvatore. You're going to have better luck on it. It should just pop up. I assumed it would pop up on the YouTube page like a normal live show would if you're a member, but I've never watched it from home. So I actually don't know the answer, Salvatore. I apologize. We'll see you on WKYC in 3 minutes. Download WKYC app.